We acknowledge this land we meet on is the traditional lands for the Kaurna people, and we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people as the custodians of the Adelaide region and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still as important to the living Kaurna people today. We extend respect to the cultural authority of all Aboriginal and First Nations people. All right, it's 7 o'clock, so I am going to start. Given we're live, I'm going to acknowledge that we're meeting today on the lands of the Kaurna people. And I am here in Tantania by the Karawura Parry, which is the beautiful river, Red Gum Forest River. I just said river twice, but it's live, so whatever. I'm just proud I'd worked out how to record because I think we need to tell everyone who's with us that usually Millie is our tech genius who records, like live streams us. And we didn't actually think about that before tonight, but our beloved Millie is in Melbourne. So we had to work it out ourselves, and I am proud that we're doing that. So go team.
I'm proud of
Anyway,
you for doing it, Amy.
yeah, let's just hope it's working, guys.
Yeah, if you can currently see and hear us, we've been successful.
We
Yes.
have PhDs all round. Anyway, welcome to Amy and happy Pride Month, everyone. I'm joined for our live book club episode by Peyton Hogan,
Hello.
who is
Having a
rocking out
party
for
down
Pride
there.
Month.
Raving.
Yeah.
It's the slowest and most
Slow party.
boring strobe light I've ever.
It's basically the
My
recovery room. You're in the recovery room.
If you have epilepsy, you'll be fine. You're not
Or
going
if you
to.
can
Everyone
have a
has left
cycle
the
between
club.
blue and red, it seems like you're at an emergency site.
And for anyone who's listening to this on the pod tomorrow and not seeing us, Peyton has disco lights on at the moment that are flashing very slowly.
Very slowly. It does look like you're driving slowly past an accident.
Which is almost metaphorically what's happening in this introduction. So next we're joined by Justina Ashman
Hello.
and Abby Guy
Hi.
and Harry Stewart.
Hi.
Hi, Harry.
Hi.
So our book of the month this month for Pride Month was Melanie Saward's Love Unleashed. I've got my Kindle, but Abby's got the hard copy. Hey, Justina has two. I've one of those is mine, I think, but I can't remember which one. Harry's been listening to the audiobook. He has actually been busy. We set this book. It's really funny, and I'm not going to name and shame, but when we were trying to work out what book to set for Pride Month, I mentioned this book, and a few people I'd known clearly had not actually read the book because they said to me they didn't feel like it was queer. And I was just and then Millie read it first and was like, "What the they talking about?"
Yeah.
I really don't understand what they were talking about either. I figure you maybe if you gave up a few chapters in, you wouldn't realize that this is not a straight rom-com.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm going to introduce you to the author. So Melanie Saward, we were lucky enough to meet, and one reason we chose the book is that we hosted this symposium, which we talk about a lot, I think, and we're going to be talking about a lot in August as we do academic month. But we hosted a symposium last year, and Melanie came and gave a paper called Where Are All the Black Fellas? She's a proud Bigambul and Wakka Wakka woman, and she's a writer, editor, and she's a university lecturer based in Tulmur, Ipswich in Queensland. So Love Unleashed was her second book, and it was, I believe, her PhD novel as well. It's a rom-com set in New York. Abby's going to tell us a bit more about that in a minute. But she's also been published in a lot of literary journals here in Australia. So a lot of the big ones like Griffith Review, Meanjin, Overland, Kill Your Darlings. She's published short stories, and this book came out with Penguin Random House a couple of years ago. So, Abby, do you want to tell us about Love Unleashed?
Yeah, I was just going to read the blurb directly from here. It's quite a long blurb, so bear with me.
Talk fast. No, I'm kidding.
And I think I said this last time I had to read a blurb out loud, but it feels like being in school where they call on you and I haven't had like the 10 people before me to say my line over and over in my head. So forgive me for that. Anyway, When Bigambul woman Bryn Wallace leaves Brisbane to pursue her dreams in the Big Apple, she imagines herself landing a fabulous career at a New York City publishing house and acquiring shelves of Louboutin shoes, not working in a doggy daycare
That
with a
was
boss
Smut
teacher
Month.
and
You've
award
like segued into Smut Month there, Abby.
Yet good things are always possible in New York, especially when you believe in them hard enough. And Bryn has a collection of New York City missions to set her on her way, challenges from her mother, whose death she is still getting over, to help Bryn rejoice in the city that never sleeps. Bryn soon finds herself making meaningful friendships, engaging in flirty flings, and meeting the gorgeous Sienna, also known as dancer Scarlet Bell. And when she stumbles on a handsome single dog dad who just happens to be a literary editor, she decides that if she can convince him she's more than a dog sitter, her dreams will finally come true. But Sienna has other plans, and as Bryn's New York ride begins to stall, the city shows her just how full of surprises it is.
Yes,
I'm
there's a-
realizing now that I would have approached the book differently if I read the blurb, but I'm not a blurb reader.
I thought the same. I also don't read the blurb.
No, I
Who?
Oh, I can't
Hey-
read blurbs. I become illiterate as soon as I see the back of a book.
What? Hayden, do you read blurbs?
I'm actually thinking I didn't for this one.
I probably don't on my Kindle, but if I have a hard copy
Yeah.
book, I always read the blurb. I
I
might even
never
go
read
back
the
and
blurb.
check on it, like during the book, if I forgot what the book was about.
Yeah. If you forget what the book is
But you know, like you put it down, and
Mm.
you're like, you don't get to it for a week, and then you're like, what was it again?
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense. I thought you meant mid-page turn.
Well,
You would
sometimes
feel
before I
like-
sleep.
Are we getting to the point?
Yeah.
Before we dive in to talk about the book, because I know we've got a lot to say, I want to know, Millie, we're going to apologize to you if you're watching or listening later, but none of us made the snack. It looked really hard. I don't bake. I don't
And I
bake at
know
all.
Millie is going to
You
say
make bread.
it's not hard at all. It's so simple. I'm sorry, Millie.
No, I will say we had the snack in person, and I
You can see it on our
attest that-
Instagram.
You can see it on our Instagram, and I can attest that Millie did say at the time that they had trouble cooking it, baking it.
Okay.
Yes.
That it was
It's
like
not
slightly
sus.
messy.
Yeah. It was like they looked amazing. If you go on our Instagram, it was like rainbow lamingtons with like sprinkles over them. And Millie actually made like the sponge cake from scratch. And yeah, I'm just not a baker. Baking is precise, and I'm not a precise person.
You make bread.
Yeah, but not precisely. It's probably not the best bread in the world. The thing about sourdough is you just let the yeast grow and you slap it in, and it's all fine.
Yeah,
Like,
the
it's
thing
not
about
summer.
sourdough, a notoriously easy bread to make.
Yeah.
Yes,
Well, but I
exactly.
go through phases. I don't make it anymore. I have to
Do
be
you
in
have
a
a
sourdough
starter?
phase.
I'm
Not
always so
anymore.
impressed. Oh, not anymore.
But my sister-in-law always has a starter on the go, so I just steal a bit off her, and then I'll do it for like a few months, and then I'll
No.
get busy and because you have to feed it every day and take
I
some
hate
out
the
every
idea
day.
that your food becomes a pet. Like there is something
Yeah.
about that I can't get around.
I
I
agree.
have a similar, I mean, the starter is less gross, but you know the stuff that SCOBY? Is it a SCOBY that's
Yeah,
created
yeah.
by
What, for the
yeah.
kombucha?
Yes.
Yeah,
Ooh.
We've gone off topic quite quickly.
we have. That's
Bring us
normal
back
for
by
us.
showing you my purchased snack, which is not a rainbow lamington, but it is a rainbow sprinkled donut from my local bakery.
See, and
Perfect.
that fits the whole American theme, doesn't it?
This is quite
Shall we
sad.
talk about the
Because
book?
we're too busy talking. No, because
Yeah.
we haven't finished with the snacks.
Oh, sorry.
A fairy bread.
I knew you'd do it. I knew you'd get the fairy bread. Well done.
Beautiful.
It even matches the lighting.
Is that
Now,
crust
and-
on?
Is it what?
Is that crust on or crust off?
Crust on.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have
This is
fairy
no-
bread crust off?
I have had it crust off. It's quite popular at children's parties.
Rich,
And I'm not a fan.
rich,
That sounds-
rich child parties, maybe.
Yeah.
What do you hold on to? Your fingers would get all sticky.
That's what
Not
I think.
into
And
it.
it sogifies the bread in a way
This
that I
is
just don't
why
think
we
is
don't
nice.
do live very often. Anyone
Mm.
who's listening, this is why we tend to edit ourselves. Anyway, who made the cocktail? Anyone?
I made the mocktail,
Is this
I made the
Juice.
mocktail.
unbranded fruit juice because we don't have a sponsorship.
Yeah.
I
mine
made
is also
a
a type of
cocktail.
fruit juice.
So yours has got booze in it?
Yeah, mine's just rum, lemonade, and orange juice.
Ah. Mine's
Yeah.
an unpopular wine called Sauvignon Blanc.
Oh.
That's kind of a fruit juice though, isn't it?
That's
So,
what,
you know,
yeah, I
you're
think
kind
it's
of on
fruit
brand.
juice themed. Fruity. It's Pride Month.
I'm sober this month, so mine is cranberry juice.
So is Abby. Not sure if it's by choice or not tonight.
She's house sitting and
I'm
she's
not in
too good
my
to
own home.
raid someone's fridge.
Yeah, I didn't want to steal a beer from the fridge because that's
Are you going to slip over pee again tonight?
Oh
Is
my
that
gosh,
gonna-
we're live. That's not aired in our episodes yet, but if you want to listen to when does that come out? In a couple weeks time? No.
Yeah.
Sometime
Straight out
soon.
the
August,
gate.
there's an episode where I slip on pee and look.
The background. It's amazing.
We'll get to it.
Anyway, back to the book. So, Melanie will be thrilled that our book club about her book has evolved into talking about pee and
Well,
bakeries.
to get back to the
but
book, it
look,
was
I did a segue, see?
yeah, it was cat
Love
pee,
this.
dog pee, because I'm house sitting and there are dogs in this book.
And she basically takes care of it. She does actually pet sit
Yeah.
in one bit of the book. So, we're on theme now,
Yeah.
back on theme.
Yeah.
So the book, Abby, you said a point before we started recording that I thought was worth having a chat about, which is about the genre.
Yeah. I pretty much said that I don't think it's, and I don't mean this in a negative way at all. I don't think it's a rom-com. I didn't read as a rom-com for me, purely because I thought all of the beats in the novel were met before she ends up with the love interest. And
Mm.
normally in a rom-com, all of those beats are met whilst the romance with the love interest is happening. But that might have just been my reading of it. So
I would say that it didn't read as rom-com to me because I didn't feel like it was first and foremost a comedy. It reminded me more of like a rom sad that you talk about. Not that it's overly sad. Like
Yeah.
it's not a depressing book at all, but it did absolutely get me a couple times
Oh,
in
I got
feeling.
weepy almost straight away. There
Yeah.
was it's really early, is it like chapter 2 or 3 where she's getting on the plane and her stepfather and the kid, her brother. And when she's saying goodbye, I was like welling up and I'm like, whoa, that's quick to get teary.
Yeah,
Mm.
no, same. That exact same bit also got me.
Yeah.
And then because throughout it as well, she's dealing with her grief over losing her mother, and the missions, the list of missions that she's
Yeah.
got to do in New York. So there's comedy in it, and there's a lot of sort of tender feelings in it as well. But yeah, it didn't feel like a rom-com to me in that very strict sense, I suppose.
I
But
mean,
it
I think
definitely.
Oh, sorry.
I was about to say it's definitely in conversation with rom-coms in general, I
Yeah.
think.
Is there a term for a book that's kind of like coming of age but not for kids? You know what I mean? I feel like there are a lot of books that are kind of coming of age but largely about women in their 20s or 30s.
Yeah,
Or
well,
like maybe it's
that
just
was
a
going to be my
rediscovery,
question,
self-discovery book.
is that there was a genre like in the 90s called the chick lit,
Yeah.
that they changed the name of pretty quickly because it was so intensely branded to a moment. Also kind of offensive in that, like women's fiction, and I just don't think they've ever found a new name for it. They're trying book club fiction, upmarket, whatever, but I don't think anything is caught the way chick lit did back then. But the question is, what is the difference between a chick lit and a rom-com, right? Like if you think about
Yeah.
Bridget Jones or those kinds of things.
I think there's like so much happening that isn't just the romance kind of thing. I feel like for me, that's maybe what the difference is.
it felt like a romance for the city.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. New
Yeah.
York was made to be this kind of low-key sentient being
But
throughout the
that's
New
novel.
York was a character.
Yeah.
that's New York though. Like
Yeah.
that's the way that New York exists in the like literary imagination, in the cultural
Mm.
imagination. And this book felt to me like so much about both this I think because Bryn is like a big fan of rom-coms as well. She's
Mm.
built up her like time in New York in her head as this huge dream for herself. And part of the book is her reckoning with it not being exactly what she thought it would be. But
But it
like
still delivers on the magic, right? There's this
Yeah,
talk of it being
but
like a
Yeah.
magic city.
But then also that the magic isn't just Bryn's understanding, it's also like her mum's,
yeah.
like it's the grief of her mum passing and her mum pushing her forward toward this dream. Because
But also
I
like
get this
just
understanding she didn't want to do it, really.
oh no, I
Like,
didn't get that feeling at all.
I got the
Um,
feeling that it was very much like this was something that she knew that she needed to do for herself, but that wouldn't have been possible without her mum's like persistence for it and her mum's memory,
mm,
which I thought was interesting because it added depth to her character that I feel linked her to the city
mm,
more than it would if she didn't have a connection there naturally.
mm.
Yeah, her mum was like the draw to New
Mm,
York.
mm.
The bit
And
I
there's
liked, I
also
think, sorry, I cut you off, Etossini. You were going to say something before you
Yeah, sorry.
oh,
finished.
there's also a part in it where she's talking about how um her dad, her biological dad, because her mum met him in New York,
Mm,
and so in some ways, New York is a part of her ancestry, a part of her lineage, even though it's not something she has as much of a connection to as her home in Australia. But also, I did like that she was largely uninterested in the story of like finding her dad, and I like that that
mm,
didn't end up being a major plot point of
mm,
like
Yeah,
find the
it's not a
bad guy.
trauma for her at all,
mm,
really. Like she
No.
said, she reached out to him, it's all fine. I really liked, so when she gets there, she ends up in a share house with Corey,
I
who
love
is a Canadian First Nations woman. And I really loved, there's all this talk about it being a magic city and magic stuff will happen. But when Corey says to her, it's the ancestors, like I think,
mm,
and because they're both from First Nations backgrounds, they have this shared language of sort of not just the heritage of trauma, which they talk about a lot, but also this sense that your ancestors are there with you, that her mother is there with her. And you're
Yeah.
right, Justina, there's a sense that not her father now because she doesn't need that, but that shade of her father when he met her mother there is there. It's like there, it's all there still.
Mm.
And it adds a kind of depth to the whole New York being a magical city thing that you don't get in any other kind of media because for them, like, they're very clear that it's not just, I don't know, it's not just New York, it's like, the way that Indigenous peoples in Australia think about country um, is so different and so much more spiritual. It's not just a place. So I
Well,
really liked that.
yeah, I love that aspect of it as well, of bringing that perspective to um like a city that's so like culturally represented in so many different ways.
mm,
Yeah.
And like as you said, the city is a character, the city is magical. Like you get this in all kinds of genres, all kinds of narratives, film, TV. And I felt like I like the way that it's kind of quite explicitly engaging with the genre that it's stepping into, but very also upfront bringing this Indigenous perspective to it, and like which I think just makes it even more rich and have even more depth to it that
Mm.
I found really like yeah satisfying to read. Because she talks a bit about Sex in the City as well. She talks about how she and her mum loved watching rom-coms, which
And
I feel
she's
like
obsessed with shoes too. Like she did
yeah,
the
like
yeah.
Carrie and
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And so I was like, oh, this is there's so much of a nod to different and part of some of her missions involve going to like landmarks in the city where like rom-coms have had scenes and
Yeah. There's a
Mm.
whole bit around Serendipity, the movie with John Cusack and
Yeah.
yeah,
Kate, what's her face? What's her name? The English actress?
Kate,
Kate
what's her
Beckinsale.
face? Mm.
That's the one. Just
Yeah.
Kate Beckinsale. Yeah, but they even go, get the frozen hot chocolate and the ice
Yeah.
skating scene, and like there's all of this leaning into the romance of the city.
Mm.
I will admit is that I didn't look at the book cover either. I didn't look at really take in the book cover or the blurb. So I
Did you
was
just
reading
have
it
your
going,
eyes shut as you were navigating to the audience?
yeah, yeah. It's honestly like it was temporarily. I had my glasses off when I was selecting that on my thing. Um, and so I was like, oh, we're going like the doggy daycare route. And then
Going
on
the doggy
finishing the
daycare
book,
route.
yeah, on finishing the book, like oh well, I'm putting on the last couple chapters yesterday. When I put it on my thing in the car, I went, oh, there's the two very clear dogs against the New York skyline right there on. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I
And
love
I
how
was
you
like,
sound like a
hmm.
disappointed dad too after your kid just told them what they do for work. Oh, we're doing the doggy daycare route.
No, I found it I thought it was so
After law school,
interesting.
you doggy daycare.
Okay.
You get to hook up with a guy who brings his dog in. Good.
Oh,
Excellent.
Jesus. I would
I
be that
loved the
character.
doggy daycare.
I loved it. No, I loved it. I was just surprised by it. That's all I'm going to say. And it was
I
stupid
liked
that I was
how
surprised.
I liked how real the doggy. This is me being like me, but I liked how real the doggy daycare side of it was. In that I know a lot of people who work in doggy daycare, and it's never totally positive. Like everyone thinks doggy daycare, I'll hang out with puppies all day. But like dogs get in fights, they get bitten, dogs are terrible to walk, the can be terrible, the business itself is terrible. It wasn't all terrible in the book. Like,
No.
but I liked how realistic that side of it was.
I liked the useless employees as well that were like kind of unnamed, that were just there, that were just kind of screwing things up. I was like, that was really entertaining.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
Okay.
the acknowledgements at the end, the author's note at the end. I am under the impression that Melanie used to work in a doggy daycare or something alike, which it reads like that in the novel.
And she
Mm.
says in the acknowledgement she went to New York as well.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of it has that autofiction element, but very
not
fictionalized.
not to bring capitalism into it so early in the game,
Oh, come on, bring the
but
Marx in. Come on.
but the unnamed workers who mess things up are because they're constantly hiring new people because he's
Yeah.
constantly firing
Yes,
people
yes.
without
And he
just
sets people
cause
up for failure. He doesn't train
Yeah.
and not
them.
training anyone.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really interesting thread. That there's such a thread of workers' rights and this
Mm.
pride in Australia, Fair Work Australia, and that
Yeah.
she has an expectation that you will have rights,
It
and
would
she
be
kind of
such a
forces it.
culture shock to work somewhere that doesn't have something like that. I would feel kind of lost. It's kind of nice, even if you don't have to think about it on a day-to-day basis, you still kind of know deep down that safe work exists and you can go to them in an
Mm.
emergency. I can't imagine not having that safety net. Let's hope we keep it. Let's hope we don't get rid of it.
So can I rewind us back a bit to thinking about genre boundaries? So, because I've been very curious lately, romance has become so huge and is so mainstream, but I don't know that people have quite passed the difference between the different genres like chick lit or women's fiction or whatever you
Mm.
want to call it,
Yeah.
and romance. Like, because I feel like for me, a romance, if it's a rom-com, that's the top line story. That's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
A story, and then everything else is the B story.
Mm.
So, like, say my Amy Matthews books, the romance is the B story usually, not the A story. Whereas
True.
in an Amy Barry, the romance is the A story.
Mm.
And for
Yeah.
me, that's how I would think about it. And I think in this one, the romance for me is the B story.
Agreed.
I agree. Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah.
Mm.
It's about her a journey of self-discovery. It's about a journey of understanding one's place in the world, post grief, post transit, like
Oh, we
transitioning to a
haven't
new
even talked
country.
about the boyfriend, like that she's
Oh
Oh,
yes.
following.
Oh,
Oh my
can
God,
we?
that piece of shit.
Something that I did something I did
Sorry.
Which
like
one?
about this
All of them.
novel that I think is
Yeah.
different to traditional romances is that the main, because we can do spoilers here because this is book club, so
Yeah.
all should have read it.
Yeah.
The main woman ends up with she has sex with like three different people, and every time she describes
She
it
has
as
a great time.
Yeah.
yeah, she
Yeah.
says it's
Yeah.
good. And I feel like in romances, if they do have sex outside of the core relationship, it is either it's not good or it's used to bolster how good the sex is with the main love interest.
Mm.
And so it was nice
Yeah.
to see a woman in this exploring sexually, and she works through trauma as well in that way with other partners. And it's
But it's like her sexuality is separate from her romantic relationship.
Yeah,
Like her
yeah. There
body
was a
and her pleasure.
great split between desire and sex in this because she desires, like, she talks about being like kind of engrossed in Sienna the first time that she meets her as the vet, and it being so interesting. But like a very slight little line in there that I didn't even pick up on the fact that that was going to be the love interest in the
Oh,
end.
really? Because I picked it when she was stripping.
Yeah,
When they
yeah.
first
Yeah.
see her at the club and she like notices her as stripping, and
Oh, the
it's
stripping,
set up,
yeah.
And she like does a little smile and you're like, okay, this is happening at some
Yeah.
point.
I took her
That's
at.
the first time she's on the page, and
I
felt
thought she.
like it was
I
obvious.
thought she meets her at the vet first.
No,
That's where they meet. She
Yeah.
doesn't meet her when
Yeah, they
she's
don't
stripping.
talk at the
She just
club.
sees her across
Oh, they
the
don't talk
room.
at the club.
they
Oh,
meet.
okay.
They meet
I'm
eye
getting that
contact.
confused.
They acknowledge each other's existence.
The
They're
other thing I wanted to
fucking.
say is that it took me, I didn't realize at first that Bryn didn't know that she was bi, because
Yeah.
the way she
Yeah.
describes women in the book is so like, I was like, I remember reading it and being like, man, I love the way women are described in this book. It's such a like, I don't know, I felt like both, there was so much desire in the gaze.
Mm,
I felt like
Mm.
in the description of women, but also in a way that was like, um, I mean, well, not to use the cinema term, not male gazy. It was
Yeah,
very
yeah.
much like a queer gaze
mm.
of female sexuality and things like that. And I was just like,
Yeah.
wow, I love this. And she's always so appreciative of like women's like bodies in a way that isn't body shamey or isn't like, I feel like her as a character, she has so much insecurity around her body because of the trauma of her past relationship,
Mm.
but it's not something that she projects on other women. Like she sees other women
Yeah.
who are so fat and is like so like enchanted.
One thing they never like is never talked about in the book, but I kept thinking in the back of my head.
Mm.
You know, she talks about having body shame because of Scott. Great Australian name there. Don't know
Yeah.
anyone since the 80s named Scott, but good choice.
Oh, I know several.
So, you know, Scott's so horrible, and there's that talk about, you know, he would shame her for wearing the shorts or but then I was thinking her mother was a ballet dancer. Like that's got to do something to you when you're a bigger woman. Like because Bryn is obviously she describes herself as fat all the time, and
Mm.
she is actually really attracted to Sienna's fatness too, and
Mm.
the ampleness of it. Like it's shown as a very voluptuous sexual thing. But I was thinking, you know, there must be something to do with the fact her mother was a ballet dancer.
That's
There
Yeah.
just
really
has to
interesting.
be.
I didn't think about that. I kept thinking about the different portrayals of patriarchy in it across all three men that feature
So we
strongly.
got Scott. We should tell everyone
Yeah.
in case they haven't read it. So Scott, who's her abusive ex-boyfriend.
Fucking asshole.
Michael, who she
Michael.
has a one night stand with, who's
Yeah.
lovely.
He was lovely, but he was also a very specific type of patriarchy because he was like he had a good job, he left really quickly. It was a one night stand.
He's a bit of a white knight. He comes in at
Yeah,
the end as a lawyer and helps out,
as a
right?
lawyer and helps. And then
It's Luke,
Luke? I want to say Lucas.
Logan. Luke. I can't
I
remember
think
his name.
Lucas? Yeah, Lucas.
Oh, blanked on
I
him.
blanked
That
him.
awful.
I know,
remember
I
his
blanked him
dog.
because
Molly's
he
dad.
was a fuck-
Mulligan's
Mully's
dad.
dad.
Mulligan's dad.
Mulligan's
We all
dad,
remember
exactly, the
dog.
dog's dad, yes. Who was also like all three of them were very, very distinct, very different versions
I
of
feel
patriarchy.
like I've met literary men like him before.
I've built all three of them. I was
Oh my
like,
God.
these are repugnant species.
I'm potentially jumping around here, but Mulligan's dad works in publishing and used to work for the literary magazine that Bryn desperately wants to get a
The Paris
internship.
Review, which I love. I
Yeah.
think if you've never checked out the Paris Review, the interviews with authors in the Paris Review are amazing.
And then at one point she's asking him like how he got that job and like, you know, what went into it. And then he goes, "Oh, you know, I just sort of fell into it." And she gets so angry. And I was like, "Oh, I feel that anger so like
Yeah.
strongly." As someone who also had for a while was trying to get into the publishing industry. And then whenever you hear someone say, "Oh, I just fell into it," and it's like a notoriously difficult to get into industry, you're like, "Oh, I'm so
But
mad."
then he's a trust fund kid, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
got in because he knew people.
Yeah, then
Yeah.
you find out he's an asshole all along.
I feel like it was obvious, but that might just be me.
Yeah, I
He
knew he
did
was an
give the
asshole, but I
vibes.
didn't realize it was like job related as well.
Now the minute
Although- I
didn't think about that.
as
Although
soon
the
as said
date
he
was
like
good.
I fell into the job, I was like, you're a misogynist.
Except he did do a good free date, like when he took her to the like he actually paid attention to
That
what
was
she
a
would
good-
like.
Yeah,
Until the
one I
very end, and he ruined the whole thing.
I know.
Yeah, that
I feel like that
motherfucker.
one, I mean, again, yeah, jumping around a lot, but I felt like that was very, to me, it read as really deliberately echoing Scott, because she talks about Scott doing these kind of love bombing behaviors, like showing up at her work with flowers and trying to do big gestures to make up for like consistently shitty behavior. And it felt like he was doing the same thing here, like doing this big gesture of a date And then at the end, he's like so concerned with how well he did because it's not for her, it's for him to pat himself on the back about how much of a good date he did.
And then clearly a hotter girl calls him because he ditches her
Yeah.
straight away.
Yeah, who's then at the
And it's all
interview?
big gestures based on his privileges and his connections, and none of it is like sincere.
Yeah. Whereas then Sienna's like totally attentive, totally sincere, there with friendship. And it's actually Bryn who's not very nice to her for quite a long time. Like,
I
doesn't
did like
return
that
her
with
calls.
this Sienna relationship, that when she gets the call saying that she didn't quite make it into the second round after the interview, that they don't actually spend time talking about how Sienna consoles Bryn, and then it kind of just moves from there to the iced chocolate, like the iced hot chocolates. I was like, as a creative decision, it makes a lot of sense because I know, like, I trust Sienna to be a good partner, and you've laid the foundation of that trust for about, however long it's been, 15, 20 chapters. So I know that she's already going to be good. She was really considerate during the sex. She was like, there was a lot of consent during the sex as well, and there was this kind of focus from Sienna on making sure that Bryn was going to be okay regardless of what happened and what their future would be like. So, as a weird creative decision, when I was listening to that part there, I thought that we were going to get at least a chapter of Bryn pouring her feelings out to Sienna on the couch and going through this like emotional journey. But when they skipped, I was kind of happy we didn't get that because I was like, that's a lot of trust in your writing and your character development to just know that us as either listeners or readers trust in Sienna as a good partner to know that that's going to happen, so you don't need to tell us it's going to happen.
Yeah, they work
Yeah.
well together. I also liked that at no point is Bryn ever alone. Like she has
Mm.
these networks. So at no point is Sienna the only one as well that she relies on. There's because she's got her nan and her stepfather back home, and she's got her cousins, and she's got her best friend back home and her housemate, and then she's got Hildy and Robert from Dogue, the dog place, and there's just so many networks of people. Like I really enjoyed that every time she has a crisis, there's someone, and there's usually multiple people, like making her, like Corey makes her pancakes, and this person gets her clothes and gets her ready for the interview. And there's this constant sense that she is making these really deep connections beyond just love and romance.
Mm.
That's
I
community,
like,
which I think is also directly related to both pride and culture, right?
Mm.
yeah. I love that aspect of it, and I think, you know, because she first starts meeting friends through her housemate, her roommate Corey, and then I think part of like Michael, who was the second man in the book, who she has a incredible one night stand with, but then he has to move across the country for work. He's also part of their larger circle, which is kind of why when he comes back as a white knight at the end of the book to solve the workers' rights issues, to me it kind of made sense because
Yeah.
she's not just made a single friend, she's fallen in with a whole community of people who know each other and they go to each other's parties and various other, they hang out in the same places, and he's sort of part of that wider group. And even though they're not in a relationship together, it's that I guess communal aid or like mutual aid type
Yeah,
thing. He's
yeah.
there to help
And he
because
was
she's part
super
of the
ethical too, I
yeah.
think. Like he was very ethical about saying this is one night, like this is not
Mm.
more than this. And to actually communicate with her when he went away. And because
Yeah.
of that sense of mutuality, I think, like you're saying,
This
Justina,
feels,
it's this sense I'm in this community.
yeah.
Excuse my language, not gonna shit where
Mm.
I
Yeah. This feels very aligned with your thoughts, Justina, on like collectivism in romance. Like this is a way to do it, to have a network around the characters. They don't have to be like, especially when they're queer, they don't have to be isolated socially and things like that.
Yeah. I mean, my research is also specifically in historical settings. Um, but yeah, I agree. I like the groundedness in community. And they towards the end of the book they go on a double date to a Renee Rapp concert, which I love.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
like it felt like yeah, it's not there's not incidental queerness. I feel like there are queer characters from the beginning of the book, even when Bryn doesn't know that
Yeah.
she's also a queer character.
Yeah.
So I feel like I should take this opportunity to read out a couple comments from our comment section. So Lee says that Bryn's not knowing she was attracted to women was so real, though. I've been there. And Sophie says, for me, a good love story is friends to lovers because a good love story can develop from good friendships.
Yeah.
So
I
thought
think
that-
their
Yeah.
friendship was so beautiful too. Like, I don't know, the sensitivity to each other was just so
Yeah.
beautiful. I also
My
loved,
heart-
like, speaking of queering, I really loved, like, one of her missions was to go ice skating, right? Because it's from the movie Serendipity and they've done all that stuff. But she doesn't go just with Sienna, she takes Corey.
Yeah,
And
and
the three of
Zach.
them do it
Yeah.
arm in arm, and it's like this big
Mm.
romantic set piece becomes something that's not just about your romance, but about your community.
Yeah.
I found when she lost the dog and Lucas took her to, I think it's Lucas. Again, I gotta say,
It is
somebody
Lucas. I
correct us if
checked
we're
the book.
wrong.
It's Lucas.
It's Lucas, thank God.
He doesn't deserve it. It's just Melanie.
He doesn't deserve it. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. We should poorly name him. And yeah, she loses the dog and he says, like, we'll work out a way to find this. But then Sienna is the one that's like, oh, like, is the ultimate reason that she manages to calm herself down and manages to move herself away from that. The only thing that I'll say in terms of friendship is that I will die on the hill after this book that Hilda was not a great friend.
I feel
Oh.
I feel like that's kind of part of the conversation in the book, though, and like Britain recognizes part of herself in Hilda, in that
Yeah.
Hilda is in a really toxic relationship, and Hilda is and there's that beautiful moment where Bryn is like obviously trying not to scare her away, but is like, if you ever need to talk to someone, you can talk to me, and
Yeah.
I won't judge you. But I
I
think
just
that's another reason why the communityness of it and the friendship of
Mm.
it is so important, because that's a big point of difference between her relationship with her toxic ex, where he was trying to push her away from spending any time with her friends.
Mm.
Whereas now, like by the end of the book, she's dating someone who not only doesn't do that, but is friends with all her friends.
Yeah,
So it's
true.
like,
I
yeah,
just thought there was a lot of outside perspective stuff about Hilda and her relationship, and that as a result, Hilda was not very, like, Hilda herself wasn't very great toward Bryn in multiple instances. And when it did come towards, I was like, I don't like this one. Like, I don't know if I like. I was like, these people could have been excluded because they're ruining my happy fantasy that is going on right now
But it
with
can't just
Bryn.
be a happy, positive fantasy, Harry. People are dynamic.
No, but I
Yeah,
don't want
Harry.
dynamic.
Wait.
I wanted the beautiful fluffiness that was coming my way. The dog parade. I
She'd
said,
happen
Chef.
in the end. It happened
Yeah.
in the end.
I
Hilda
know,
comes
but
through in the end.
she was a bit of a thorn in my side. Her and her partner. Hilda was a bit of a hindrance.
Bryn was a bit horrible to Hilda too, though. Like, she didn't know it, but she took a dog sitting job.
True. And the spider, that got me. When it was,
Oh my God.
The mice got me. And Abby
Oh.
is someone who has things in tanks, I know. So I don't want to go somewhere and have mice.
I will say the snake. Yeah, it was like it reared back in an S, and I was like, they don't all do that.
I did wonder what you would think about the snake biting the rabbit after not being fed in the boy's arms and like all that stuff.
Oh, yeah, a snake will bite you for anything. So
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, I was like, great. If I went to house sit someone who I thought only had a cat and it turned out they had like a python
You'd be in heaven.
and a
Yeah.
mice,
Yeah.
I love mice. It's like my first.
oh, I would leave.
Yeah, amen,
Yeah,
Justina. I would have been
I
out
would
on.
I would have
As if-
rocked up there. She'd be hoity-toity saying, "Oh, I've got these animals." She's acting so snobby. I would have been like, "All right, I actually
Yeah.
have a job. Bye."
I'm out.
No,
I'm
I
remembering-
would have been like, hell yeah. I signed up for a dog and I've got all this. I'd rather all of those in the tanks than the dog.
The housekeeper was giving very like Rebecca vibes to me.
I thought
Mrs.
that Mrs. Danvers vibes. Don't cut the cheese on the marble. And here's your little fridge with the supermarket cheese. I was like, I wouldn't turn my nose up at that if someone had stocked a whole fridge for me for the
I
weekend.
will say, when she turns up at that house and is told immediately that what you are allowed to eat will be labeled. Like you'll know what you're allowed to eat and what you're not. And the first thing she does is open the main fridge and start cutting up cheese that she remarks
I
is
know.
like
That's
expensive cheese.
probably
I
like
would never.
$200 a kilo or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would never. I
Right?
walk up to a house and I use as little as possible, and then I replace
I know you didn't even take a
Yeah.
beer. I was going to say to you, you know what you do, Abby, is you drink the beer and replace it
Yeah.
Yeah.
like a mini bar.
Yeah.
No one heard me say that.
Like a mini bar.
And also
My
it's-
God.
I've never done that, but I've always thought, why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you? Yeah,
Just
no, but can
replace
you
it.
buy the tiny bottles that they have in those areas?
Oh,
Sure,
some-
of course you can.
This is a tangent, but some mini bars, like in hotels, they have sensors in them so
They
that
do.
even if you move it, it will charge you. It will charge you for removing it.
I've been to places where they have like little lock boxes inside the fridge and you take it out and QR code it and you pay to unlock the box virtually through your phone. Like it unlocks after you scan and pay. It's ridiculous.
Oh my
I used to
goodness.
find that
Um,
annoying because I would empty the mini bar so that I could use the fridge to put
So
water.
I know,
fair.
you put like, yeah,
Yeah.
You
exactly.
know, proper things in it. We've got a comment on Instagram. Oh, Instagram. What the fuck
On
am I
Instagram, on the
on YouTube.
Instagrams.
Yeah, we've got the on Instagram. On one of the
Instagram.
social medias. Which I'll just
It's like a
read out.
telegram, but straight away.
But straight away, yeah. Sorry, I'll just turn to my fax machine because we've had somebody bring something through to us. We've got Carmen here who said that they think that the Hilda subplot also shows that Bryn could be supportive to Hilda in a bad relationship after Jackie couldn't be a good friend to her during Bryn's
Agreed.
bad relationship.
I think
Which
that's
I
true.
I didn't think about. Very
That
clever.
friend
I agree.
killed me. The first few chapters where we're
Jack.
seeing
Yeah,
yeah.
Jack.
Oh my God.
Not a
I
fan.
was so
Amazing.
glad that they
Ex-crew as
didn't.
well. Yeah.
Yes.
I was so glad they didn't do a forgiveness arc with her, and that they just let it be like, you've actually damaged this friendship beyond repair.
I
Yes.
was shocked when the ex-boyfriend showed up though. I felt as shocked as Bryn did. I was like, Jesus.
At the party.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at the party, I was like, what the hell is this motherfucker doing here?
Yeah. Gosh.
Yeah. And that
So I have
whole
a question for you.
that guilt that came
I'm
with
gonna-
it made me feel sick for her.
I think she does relationships of all kinds beautifully. Like I felt like the relationship with the stepfather was amazing, with her brother was amazing, even her nan, just a couple of phone calls. I was just like, oh, I'm totally in this
Yeah.
relationship. But then all the friends, and like you said, you love Corey, Abby. She might be my favorite character, actually. I loved
He's
Corey.
my favorite character easily. Yeah.
But I have a question about you guys, right? So if New York's big, so I've written a book that plays with New York.
What? You wrote a book?
I did once. Yeah. I can't believe I ever did. I'm so sick of writing this year. But
Is incredible.
but
Can you read one?
but I get the New York thing, like I do, and I've been to New York, and it does feel. I mean, I think coming from Australia, the first few times you go overseas, you're like, it's like stepping into a movie. Like this stuff actually exists. But New York does have that vibe, and there are other places that do. But if you had to pick your mythic city, where would it be? It could be in any
Ooh.
period of time. Like some of you are into history.
That's
Where would
really hard.
What would be like the book you'd write that's a love letter to a city or a place?
Atlantis.
I was trying to think of like, how is there a way to resurrect the Library of Alexandria?
Yes.
I don't know
I
if
was
I'd
thinking
have the
Troy.
city because I'm not a city person. Like I don't
You get freaked out in Adelaide. I've seen it happen.
Yeah, I do.
Walking down the mean streets of
Live.
North
Get freaked
Terrace
out in
mean
Adelaide.
streets.
I do. I would like I prefer to romanticize somewhere like Iceland or like Switzerland, like more so that sort of landscape as opposed to a city. is what
Something
I-
kind of
Pining for the
epic.
fjords.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm pining for the moors. I really want to go to the moors and
Oh.
reshoot the Wuthering Heights music video.
Oh,
need a
see, I'm going to the
dress.
moors next month. I will
You
just send you some
are?
backgrounds and you can green screen it and
Can you take
Off
a
you
red
go.
dress?
I'll just
Can you-
pack you in my luggage. You can come do it.
You can go like that.
Yeah.
For me, the ultimate mythic sort of quality of a city is Venice. I think Venice is like incredible.
Have you been?
Um, I've been there once before, and the whole time I was walking around being like, oh my God, this is just like in the books.
Yeah. I did like Venice.
I
I went
would
in
pick.
winter, so I quite like Europe in winter because it's so different to here.
I went in like peak tourist season, but I found that like you would be in the like main touristy area and it's like packed with people, and then you just sort of wander down like a little side street, and then it feels like you've been transported to almost like
Yeah.
another world.
Did you go on a gondola?
Yes, we did very touristy gondolaing. We went and watched glass blowing. But the most important thing was ate a lot of pasta, and a
Yeah.
lot of gelato.
I've got my Venice story is like the beginning of a rom-com where you're like you need to divorce that guy and find the actual guy. I was with my ex and we were in a gondola and it was beautiful. It was like buttery afternoon sunshine. Venice is just like so beautiful. And the guy who's doing the gondolaring starts serenading us, like singing opera. And I was just like, oh, this is just like being in a book. And my ex says, I wish he'd shut up. He sounds like someone's murdering a cat. And it's just like, oh no, you're the bad guy in the rom-com.
Oh
You
shit!
can't be with that guy.
No, you
Moment of
can't,
clarity.
and you didn't,
I am not.
You should
and
have just
you are not.
capsized
I am
and then hoped that he
I would
drowns.
not get in that water in those canals. I would
No.
probably stay well clear of it.
No.
I
Harry,
don't
what city
know.
would you choose?
I would pick Queenstown in New Zealand.
You're just saying that because you're about to go there.
Well, yes. But also there is nothing like New Zealand in wintertime.
I
Like the huge roaring mountains, that open
Roaring
plains.
mountains.
The
I thought you were going to
roaring
say fire. I thought you were going
Yeah.
to say huge roaring fire. It's like,
The- No, but like it's gorgeous. Like it's what I find
Closest Harry
really
could-
romantic, and
this is
it's
Lord
like
of the Rings. You're
exquisite is
basically
Lord of
Middle
the
Earth.
Rings.
Yeah.
I was like,
You
this is
know.
the closest Harry could get to saying Middle Earth.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. If I could set a romance on the Misty Mountains, yeah, that's where I'd be setting it. Like
That
I
would
find
be.
I
I picture
cannot
you in
wait to go
Rivendell.
back.
I think you'd be in Rivendell. That's where I imagine
Oh,
you.
if I'm thinking like fictional, yeah, it would be like in some sort of elven place.
In flowing robes.
Yes, in flowing robes and with a book in my hand. Yeah,
Ooh.
and a goblet.
Some Elvish wine. Yep.
But I
always
can't
good.
wait to go back to that because I recall it so vividly how beautiful it was and how much the landscape just made me like I was like, oh, I was in awe of it.
But is there okay, you're leaning into a couple of things. So Harry, one is that yours is reminding you of epic landscapes from stories you love, Peyton from music videos you love, and Justina from books that you love. Because I do think a lot of our love for things comes from those mythic layers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It comes
Is there
from what we
anywhere?
find comforting and like if I was going to pick the second place, it would be where they filmed, which is in Italy, I believe. Someone can correct me. Naboo from the Star Wars movies,
Yeah, okay. You
because
mean like Como.
Lake Como, yeah, because that is so beautiful to me. Like that just if I had to pick a place to be proposed to or to like fall
Are you
in love
listening,
with
Lee?
again, it would be
I
there.
want to be on Naboo. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to be Padme.
I know the
With the
one you're
child
thinking of
murderer.
too. You're thinking of like the backless dress where she's against the railing
She's
looking at the
against
lake.
yeah.
Aye.
And he's
Yeah.
busy telling me that he doesn't like sand, and I'm confused why he's telling me that he doesn't like sand. But I'm so in love. So like yeah, somewhere like that, which is what I like about Queenstown because I like I love the lake, the way that it like I don't know. It's just that's romantic. So that's where I would set something that I find
Yeah.
romantic.
We have 2 votes in the chat for Darwin from Sophie and Carmen.
Oh,
I've never been to
wow.
I've
Darwin.
never been to Darwin either. I would
Yeah.
love to go.
If I had to pick a specific city, my other thing was Broome up in Western Australia, which, because I lived there and I love it and I think about it often. And it's very good for like those little romantic activities as like very touristy as opposed to living, which I imagine would be very similar to Darwin. They've got very similar climates, they've both got crocodiles. So I can get behind
Excellent. Only you would be excited about crocodiles. Like
Yeah, that's where the romance ends for me.
Big lizards, check.
big lizards. Can I put it in some kind of enclosure and feed it live animals? With
Here's
Are
the thing.
crocodiles the closest you'll get to a dragon? Is that why?
Maybe. But it floods in the wet season there. It rains so much that you like can't drive down your street. We used to boogie board in the streets in the wet season. But it flooded once and the crocodile park flooded and the crocodile escaped, one of them. And so everyone it would be like careful with crocodiles in the streets.
What?
Oh my
No
goodness.
wonder you're
Go
not
to
faced by
America and tell
a
them these
spider.
stories.
You're
Well, we've
basically
actually
Crocodile
got
Dundee.
we've
Yeah.
actually got Sophie in the chat who is in Darwin at the moment for holiday and said that it's
Oh.
beautiful and that it's definitely romance material.
Okay, I'm
Ooh.
there. We
I
should
bet
do a
there's
show
probably
there one
already
day.
romances set there. We should read some.
We should
Yeah.
actually, there's a future thought. Maybe we could do geography as the way of choosing where our book of the month is from. Anyway, back to this amazing book of the month.
True.
I actually
Yes.
really, if people are listening and haven't read it, I actually found this such a swift read for something that has a lot in it. Like it's actually doing a lot. And the character complexity was amazing. But it does, I mean, I think partly that is because there's much more depth to and breadth to the story than just a I don't want to say just a romance because you know how I feel about romance. But
We all love romance here, people.
yeah, we're on
We just
board
also
for the
like
romance.
distinguishing between different genres.
Yeah,
We know
yeah.
about that.
I also agree because I find that I actually, as much as yes, I agree that a romance, the A plot is the romance. It bothers me when you're reading a book where it seems like the protagonist doesn't have any real strong connections with other people apart from the love interest. And I love that this book doesn't do that. It really finds, in some ways, it finds the romance in all of these types of love and all of these types of relationships, which I
That's
thought was
so
really nice.
true. All the different types of love. You really don't. I feel like maybe it's becoming a bit more common in romance novels, but like I feel like I don't know, I might be wrong, but in my reading experience, that's been kind of recent. I feel like it used to like the people were quite apart from everyone
There's
that
a
wasn't the love interest
a
kind of
lot of the
thing.
tropes, a lot of the tropes do kind of push towards the two protagonists being alone together.
Yeah,
Like whether it's forced proximity or whatever it is,
like
there's
that
usually ways of
hierarchy of
yeah.
different types of love. Like we tend to think of romantic lovers right up the top, and this book really doesn't doesn't subscribe to that
Yeah.
ideology kind of thing at all, which is really good.
And I mean,
Carmen
Justine,
just
sorry.
Carmen just said in our chat that they think there's something very queer about finding different kinds of love in friendship as well, and that it's definitely their experience.
Yeah,
Yeah.
see, I think you're right. And I think that, Justina mentioned adopting a queer gaze, but I also think there's something about the black BLAK gaze that she is very,
Mm.
you don't, I mean, obviously because fiction has been so dominated by whiteness, and particularly in Australia, I think, and other kinds of experiences have been so kind of pushed off the center. It feels so, I don't know, startling's the wrong word, but I was very aware of her point of view being something I hadn't read before in a rom-com. I know I've read Anita Heiss's rom-coms as well,
Mm.
but Melanie managed to do this thing where her her indigenous kind of way of seeing was central to her. And like when she comes to New York, she kind of acknowledges country and introduces herself to country. And all of that is so central to her and her experience. And it was just amazing because it makes you realize you don't see it often enough. Like
It's
it was
very
such a different
similar
view.
to a point that I think Justina made in one of the previous episodes this month. Or you and Justina and Harry were talking about the stereotyping of queer people and then how the reverse has happened to such an extent that all sense of identity is erased. And so it's almost a similar thing, perhaps, that like there's no erasure going on of her indigenous identity, which is
And I
But
really
think
it's a gaze, right? It's not just, like I think we're used to seeing someone's identity from the outside
Mm.
of
yeah.
like you are black or whatever. but we see through her gaze, and it's just
Yeah,
something you
it's
realize that you
central.
don't see in commercial fiction.
And I thought it was interesting as well in how that's in relationship with the genre aware stuff because it's such a trope in rom-coms or contemporary romances, especially set in New York, that the heroine works in publishing, and it's always they always magically earn enough money to live in like a beautiful apartment in Manhattan, and then they also are like, I don't know, they just they're usually the like Carrie Bradshaw's like the thin white protagonist who falls
Yeah.
into it or something. And it's very glamorous. And I like that this was such an unglamorous look at
Mm.
that, while also
Joyful, but also
yeah,
Yeah.
like the joy in the whole experience of it.
I like
yeah. And I love that she was constantly reckoning both with herself and with people she talked to about like, oh, is this worth it? And I
Mm.
love where it ends up
Mm.
in the end, where
And then
that
that character that brings in
yeah.
that Carrie Bradshaw, who gets the moment, who it works in publishing, it's
Mm.
revealed that they're a trust fund, Nepo baby.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So like, and it's a
It's
white
funny to
male.
con
Yeah, like I'm like, this is a great take on this stereotype and
I
revealing what really goes on.
Yeah, I also liked that in not landing the publishing job, spoilers, in not landing the publishing job that she's going for, it's not um stepping into or joining this just enormously white-centric narrative as well. It's that she returns to country and creates this imprint specifically for
And
Indigenous.
in community, right? Like
Yes.
with
Mm.
other people.
Yeah, and I liked that because it could have been easily have gone the very typical route of she gets the publishing job,
Mm.
which wouldn't
Yeah.
have had the same impact.
All of this is especially refreshing, I think, with the rise of, or the return of the billionaire romances that we see all the time, because so many of them do take place, not all, but many of them do take place in big cities. And it's almost like, well, this is a convenient way to explain how these people are living here without suffering any consequences or whatever. Um, but then they maybe don't think about the other implications of including like a billionaire in your story. Like they're not
Mm.
just rich enough to live somewhere, they're exploiting people, blah blah blah. But
Karl
yeah, it was
Marx.
refreshing.
We need to
Yeah.
just have our copy of Marx every single
Yeah.
week.
So yeah, it was refreshing to see all of those issues acknowledged again. And I hope that more people keep doing it because we
She
keep slipping
just,
back into like a
I was
capitalist
just so
mindset lately.
impressed how complex it was. Just like when you mentioned that, Peyton, like it's so true. Everything like
Mm.
that they eat at home, right? They can't afford to go out, so they'll eat at home. They'll make stuff. But it's not a big deal. It's just the reality of not having money and having
Yeah.
to work every shift you can for hardly any money and
Mm.
not being able to afford medical care and having to haggle for boots because you can't afford new shoes. And
Mm.
all of these things are just embedded there in a way that does never feels didactic. It never feels
Mm.
like she's saying, let me tell you about this crisis or this.
Yeah.
But it's just such a honest and I don't know, it's a really, I think, a writer who's really in control of, I don't know, showing the actual reality of intersectionality
Mm.
without it ever being forced or like
Mm.
it's, I don't know, the complexity of it really blew me
So
away.
not forced though, you're spot on. There was no moment whatsoever that I was taken out of the narrative for the idea of that we were about to get a perspective that was like politically aligned or that was in there
Yeah.
to prove a
Yeah.
point.
It
But
wasn't
they're all in there
tokenistic
to prove a
or
point.
yeah.
They're all in there to show us something. It just felt so seamless.
the
Lee's commented on YouTube, is next month Communist Manifesto. Book
I'm
club?
sure we'll find a way to bring it in.
We should. It's
We
really
should.
short.
Yeah, we should. We could write our own manifestos. Well, actually,
Yeah.
what we need is Peyton reciting it while spitting on the moors in a red dress.
Yes.
Mm.
That's
I
our book
read.
club of the month.
Yeah,
There you go.
beautiful.
Peyton spinning around with a face cam as well that
That's
sits
actually
like here.
a really good way to get us to the end of the episode. That's a nice. I'm just with that mental image since we're nearly at the end of the episode.
Before we
Anyway,
end, because I know we needing to wrap up, can I just mention that I listened to the audiobook and I know a lot of us did. and that it's a really good audiobook, and the narrator does an amazing job. Like, there are so many accents in this novel because it is written from an Australian perspective in America with so many, such a diverse cast. And I think the narrator did an amazing job. It's really well done.
Yeah.
Yeah, big recommend from the narrator. I
Yeah,
will
that's
say
Tamala Shelton. Is that right?
Tamala or Tamala, one of those.
Tamala Shelton or Tamala Shelton, amazing. I loved also, I want to shout out to the phone calls
Oh,
that were in the
yes.
audiobook. The effect of like them actually being on the phone to each other as opposed to just reading out text was awesome. Like I loved that. I liked the take. I thought it was amazing. The emails and text messages as well, I thought were really good as well. It made for, like Amy said, a really fast, like a swift read. It was
I
so
would like to set this book in my romance course, I think.
Oh, I think you absolutely
Yes.
should.
It
I
be
would
just a
love
great
to see
text.
a film adaptation of this.
I
So for
agreed.
all the big wig movie
Yeah, who
execs
watch us.
who watch us and
Absolutely.
listen to us and come to the live streams every month, you gotta get those film rights
Yeah.
because it would make such a good rom-com.
I can't listen to anything with Peyton partying down there.
I know, it's so good.
Yeah.
I finally got
Club
into good
again.
quicker.
Yeah, amazing.
She's had 3/4 of a glass of rum. She's done. She's
She's
out.
had her fairy bread. She's high
Yeah,
in
it's just
sugar.
straight up rum. Rum up
She's
to
just-
here, and then
she's just
orange
doofing.
juice.
She's doofing down there.
Now, we did have a copy. Abby's got the copy that we're going to give away to one lucky person who is joining us on YouTube Live. Sorry for those of you listening to us tomorrow. So we have decided this week that Harry is going to pick the winner from the lovely people who have been watching and commenting. So, Harry, while we have a chat, you have a look through the comments and think about who you want to award it to.
Yeah.
While you're doing that, we'll move on to what's happening next month because next
Amazing.
month is going to be slightly different.
You carry through. So comment now, people, because I'm about to start
Oh.
perusing.
Hats on.
Hat is on.
Yeah.
So, so next month I am going to be away because I've earned a break. So I'm going to take a month off. Having said that, we have pre-recorded some episodes, so I will actually be in a couple of episodes, but not all of them. And I'm letting these guys take over. So I'm going to let you take over now.
You might be surprised to see that our book of the month for next month is Cried. So beautiful.
Which
So everyone
comes
go
out
pick
in
up.
Australia next week. So go and buy a copy and start
What
reading.
day? I should know. It's on the 2nd. What
Yes!
day of the week is the 2nd of July?
It's your book.
Monday. No, it's not Monday. I know, but I'm going away. I'm not going to be here.
Wednesday?
It's Wednesday, the 2nd
Wednesday.
of July.
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
But it will
Oh,
actually probably hit
Say,
shelves a bit
hit up
earlier
your
than that.
local bookstore and purchase it because we are going to be talking about it and
While I'm not here, so they
Yeah,
actually
also-
can say what they think.
Yeah.
Well,
And
the
it's
book club will
rough.
be without Amy, but I will say that we did manage to get a pretty big guest on a couple of times on the
Yeah.
podcast. We got the Amy Barry
And
joining
it's safe to
us.
say, I know this is live. She was a bit tricky.
Difficult to work with, hard
She
to get in
wasn't-
touch
She had a
with.
bit
A
knocked
lot.
off the hosting gig, so she
Yeah.
wasn't
I will, I will warn everyone listening that or watching that the hats got we wear hats, cowboy hats. The hats go on and the silly gets turned up like 10 notches.
Yeah, it's a bit of a crazy month.
So it's a crazy month, but it's a good month. And so I look
It's a
forward to
great month. It might even be our best month yet. So
So
tune in.
we are going to have some special guests. We have B. St. James joining us to talk about contemporary cowboy books. You're going to interview Amy Barry. What's the other one? I can't remember what else has happened. There was
Kathleen
another
Stanley makes an appearance in our second week as well.
Yes.
Very
Yeah.
true.
Talking about
something
small
else.
town.
hmm
one. Can't
We
remember.
interview
There's another.
someone who is it?
Who could we
Yeah.
possibly interview?
Oh,
I feel like there was another one. There were like 3 episodes, and they're gone. And then they'll be doing the live show without me, and then it's a month with 5 weeks. So you get these guys doing Amy and After Dark. Do you want to tell them what it is so they can go get
Yeah,
prepped for that one
actually.
as well?
So we're pivoting to film for our After Dark. And we're looking at, was it Seven Brides for Seven Brothers? Is that the name of the film? And we
yeah.
did have a little cheeky movie night after our last recording day. And I hope we've all been storing up our comments because I feel like we'll have a lot to
There's
say.
a lot. There's a lot, I feel like.
You have a
Anyway,
whole month to watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So watch the film and read the books, and join us.
All we can
And-
say is that we have not been able to get Abby to stop watching it since
Oh, she
No,
keeps
she
singing
said
the
she
songs.
loves the
Oh
song.
my
She's such a
goodness.
musical fan
And
that
she
she
just
just
watching
breaks
it.
into
into
song all over
song.
the place.
I've heard she's been listening to the soundtrack, watching it in the
know.
shower,
Bless your
falling
beautiful
asleep
hide,
to it.
Abby.
Oh my gosh.
It's been ridiculous.
Anyway, and I just want to say, if you are joining us from the US, I've been getting a lot of messages about when it's coming out. It will be out in the US in spring 2026. So I'm sorry you have to wait a bit longer. Usually it happens the other way around where you get it first and then Australia gets it, but it got switched this time. So you can listen, learn about Bo. Hopefully they don't spoil too much, and pre-order your copy for spring. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's us.
Hopefully we don't
Oh,
spoil
Harry,
too much. Shit.
who won? Who won the book?
I have my winner.
Okay.
Oh, holding
Drum roll?
the book. I was like, what's
This
Abby
is the
doing?
book that they will receive.
This
so.
is the book that our winner is taking home. And our winner tonight is Sophie Goldsworthy.
Yeah.
So
Hey,
big.
Sophie. So, Sophie, if you want to DM us on @Amy and podcast on Instagram,
Instantgram.
Instantgram, the Telegram of the now. If you want to DM us your postal address, we will get you the book straight away. Awesome. I think that's us done. Everyone had their rum, their fairy bread and sugar. Anyway, honestly, we only ever put books on here that we really love. And so you can be assured when you join us that we do love the book. But this one, oh my God, how she managed to do so much in something that is a really lovely, light, comforting read. Hats off to Melanie Saward. She deserved that PhD, I will say. I know she's currently in Mexico at a conference, so I don't know if she'll be seeing this when she wakes up in the morning, but thank you, Melanie, for such a wonderful book. And we look forward to reading your next one. And for the rest of you, I'm going to head off now. You will see me, but I'm going to be running away and leaving these monkeys in charge.
Bye, everyone.
So we'll see you.
Bye.
Thank you for
next month.
watching.
Bye. Thank you so much for everyone in the chat.
Yes.
Bye.
Love having you.
I love our book clubs.